got time for somebody's favorite radio program?
This is America's outdoor talk program.
Are you ready to get rowdy?
Outdoors This Week with your host, Alex Langer. Alex Langer. We've got fishing.
Believe me, folks, I have been there, and the fishing has been tremendous.
Hiking.
Adios. Have a nice trip.
Camping.
This is a real adventure.
How do you know?
When you're an experienced woodsman like me, you get a feel for these things.
Oh, really?
Heck, we've even got kayaking.
I'm going to show you kids the time of your life.
We've got all the info you need for a safe and fun day in the sun.
It's a darn good thing we found you when we did. There's something horrible roaming these woods.
And you've got Outdoors This Week. Outdoors This Week. And now, here's your host, Alex Langer.
Why, thank you, Mr. Announcer. That is quite a rousing introduction. If I sound excited today, it's because I am. We have a guy with us that I'm actually a fan of. Joe Thomas has done it all. He's competed at the highest levels of professional bass fishing. He's both FLW and B.A.S.S. He's authored a definitive account of the life of a pro angler with Tim Tucker about 20 years ago. It's still the defining book of a bass pro's life. So if you got time, look up his book that he co-wrote with Tim Tucker. It's called The Pro's Life. You won't be sorry you did. There's a common thread that runs through Joe's life. He's crazy about fishing, and he started fishing at a very young age professionally, just as I did. He had to lie about his age. I never had to lie about my age. I always looked older than I really am. That used to be an advantage. However, it is no longer an advantage. There is a point in your life where you no longer wish to look older.
Yeah, we don't want to look older now. No, thanks.
That was good through age 20, but or age 16.
Yeah, that's about it.
So Joe Thomas also, he started in 1976. I started fishing professionally in 1975 and won my first tournament in 76. And in 1976, Joe Thomas told a big lie, more like a small fib. It was he refers to it as a white lie. Joe Thomas lied his way into bass tournaments, and then after that, he became one of the top stars on the Outdoor Channel. He produced landmark shows like Ultimate Match Fishing and also Stil's Reel in the Outdoors. Ultimate Match Fishing is actually one of my favorite shows ever on the Outdoor Channel because it has all of my heroes, and it's the only show that actually pits FLW anglers versus bass anglers. I'm going to ask him who of those two groups are the better anglers, and we'll see what his answer is. And then we have all of our usual suspects. We got Ron Linder, who was back from a minor operation, but it's only a flesh wound. He's going to be okay. Then we got everybody else. So stay with us, folks. It's going to be a heck of a show. We'll be right back.
More of America's favorite outdoor talk program, Outdoors This Week, after these messages.
Hi folks, Ron Linder here for Linder's Angling Edge Television, seen on the Pursuit Channel every Saturday early afternoon. Okay, I'm currently doing an article for the North American Fisherman. North American Fisherman has quite an extensive circulation, 425,000 last I heard. It's one of the larger magazines out there today. At any rate, the title is Anchors Away, well, sort of. Anchoring, at least proper anchoring, was considered one of the fine arts of fishing. I mean, you were a good anchorer, you were indulged in the fine arts. Through the years, though, technology developed and things like GPS, depth finders, absolute accurate maps, trolling motors with spot lock, back trolling and drifting and the like tended to put anchoring as a prime methodology on the back shelf. A little background is necessary. Back in the day, anchoring was the mode. This is the days of the 12 and 14-foot wooden boats, the oarlocks, and maybe you had a 6-horsepower motor on the back, and not all the people owned depth finders. Actually, they were flashers in those days. And a lot of depth was determined by metered strings with weights. And you'd go out there and probe around, and you'd throw some empty bottles wrapped with a string and some weights, and you'd mark off an area. And you kind of figure, I'm going to drift troll or anchor or do something in this area. And you might throw a split shot with a night crawler out, or you might use a bomber with a minnow on it, or maybe cast an area with a plug or a spoon. These various methods were in use. Over the years, however, bass anglers in particular kind of stopped anchoring. They still do. Now, the shiner fishermen with guides, which would pull up in Florida, you see them, they pull up there, they anchor down, and they put these corks out with these shiners, and they float them in against heavy cover. They still do that today, but by and large, most bass fishermen, they keep untied, as it were. They figure that with the machinery they have today, that they can hover in spots long enough to properly fish it down. And in the walleye world, they would anchor in areas and fish with leeches. They still do that till today. Anchoring as a system has not went away, but it has markedly decreased or got until recently with the innovation of talons and power poles, which you see on the back, these little towers you see on the backs of these boats. Anchoring is coming back into its own. Minn Kota's talon, you can now anchor, or what we call pin anchor, in 12 foot of water with the press of a button. Bink, it sound, you want to go leave, boom, you press the button, it's all the way up, and it does hold you, even in a pretty darn good wind. And and by the way, I hear they're even working on, no, I shouldn't even say, I'll say it anyway, they're working on 16-foot models as we speak. They got ways of doing this. So with these new anchors, talons and these power poles, anchoring is coming back to its own. These guys are, particularly bass fishermen, they're positioning themselves between maybe a very complicated dock layout. There's a number of docks, and they got all kinds of offshoots and stuff. They'll position themselves. They'll pull down. We call it taloning down. Talon down, and from this position, lock themselves down and really cast out. Shoot it underneath the dock itself. Shoot it under the boat. Shoot it under the side of the canopy. That kind of stuff. So anchoring more, and they're also anchoring in stump fields. And my son Jimmy just came from a tournament up in Leech Lake where they got these big rice beds, and he says these guys were taloning down constantly out in these big rice beds, and they were flipping the real heavy weighted jigs, punch crawling they call it. Ounce and a half sinker with a 6 or 4 aught or 5 aught or 6 aught hook, heavy duty with a craw on the back, and 65-pound test braid, and a 7.5 foot flipping stick with the 7-to-1 gear ratio. They'll flip that thing out there in 3.5, 4 feet of water. Bass picks it up. I don't care how big he is. They rip jaws. My son just got through doing this. He came back and he didn't understand something. I says, I fish a lot down in Okeechobee. I practice with some of the best punch crawlers in the world. These guys tape their wrists because when you set the hook on a 5 or 6 pound bass in 4 foot of water with 65-pound test braid, there's no give. So you better have your wrists just like a fighter. So what they do is they get the tape. You buy the tape. That basketball players and a lot of athletes use. And what they're doing is they're wrapping their wrists. They're using this in conjunction with taloning down anchoring. So anchoring is back, by the way. So the long-lost art, they're starting to rediscover something that everybody used to do years ago. With that, well, see you later, folks.
Larry Whiteley and the Outdoor World Report are proudly brought to you by the brand new Rototail, the world's first and only plastic worm with a soft rotating spinner tail. The patented tail generates unbelievable vibration that you and the fish can actually feel just like a spinnerbait or a crankbait. See it at rototail.com. That's rototail.com.
Buck Fever coming up on Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Would you like to spend less time on the couch and more time in the fresh air? Would you like your kids to stare at a bobber instead of the TV? Would you gladly trade in your microwave for a Dutch oven? Then you belong at Bass Pro Shops. Every week, we offer free skills workshops to help you get started. See the store or go to BASSPro.com for more information. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
I don't care how long you've been hunting. Buck fever can strike you anytime a shooter buck comes into bow range. Big antler bucks have a way of affecting our shooting form we've worked so hard on. Your breathing can become ragged, your heart starts pounding, your legs start shaking. You got buck fever. As cool as we try to be or think we are, it can still strike at any time and cost you that deer of a lifetime. So practice for it. Here's how you do it. Before you start a practice session, go ride your bike as hard as you can around the block or run up a hill or steps as fast as you can. Jump a rope, do sprints, climb a tree, I don't care what you do. Just get your heart pounding, legs shaking, breathing ragged. Now practice shooting your bow. Practicing under these conditions will help you control your arrow release and help you make a better shot on that trophy buck when that strange phenomenon called buck fever sets in. I'm Larry Whiteley, and this is Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Why, thanks a lot, Larry. And look out, there's a buck right behind you. He doesn't look friendly.
Uh-oh.
Listen, let me tell you about our next guest, who I'm very excited to have here today with us. Joe Thomas is one of the best-known people in the outdoor world. He has a show called Stil's Reel in the Outdoors that takes you all over the world. He's also known for something called Ultimate Match Fishing. My favorite episode was when he had Rick Clunn on. He had the Zen master Rick Clunn on his show, and he asked him about what he was doing. Joe used to be a professional angler. He told a lie to enter his first tournament back in 1970. In fact, that was when I won my first tournament back in 1976. Let's talk to Joe Thomas, an icon in the outdoor world. Joe, how are you?
I'm great. How's everybody there?
Great, Joe. Tell us about the lie you told to get into professional fishing.
Well, first of all, it was a white lie. Okay, that's way different than the other time.
There are no white lies.
Well, you're probably right there, but no, I wanted to fish in this bass club in Cincinnati, and there was just a few of them, and there was one that I really wanted to fish in because I was working at a Bass Pro Shops after school in one of the franchise stores back in the day, and I wanted to.
Bass Pro had a franchise store in Cincinnati in 1976.
Yeah, they actually, they had small initially mom and pop stores set up, and ours was a Ranger dealer.
That's right. I remember those. Anybody could sign up and become a Bass Pro dealer.
That's exactly right. And I worked for one, and all the guys from this bass club were coming into the store and talking about the club. And I was 16, and I wanted to fish, and they had a regulation you had to be 18 years old. And one of the guys there who'd fished with me a few times, he says, we could probably convince them. And he winked at me. He says that you were 18. And I think everybody knew, so they looked the other way. And but I told them I was 18, and that allowed me to get into the club. And interesting enough, when I turned 18 was the year that I won state federation championship through that club. So I was glad I got a 2-year head start.
The little white lie helped.
It did, and I think all those guys, like I said, I think everyone knew. They just modified the rules for me.
You were probably so darn nice that they couldn't say no. I totally identified with that because I fished my first professional tournament just out of high school. I don't think I was 18 yet. I get it. I don't think I had a lie because I was big for my age. I looked like I was older. So,
I got you.
Tell me about what you're doing these days.
Well, Alex, I fished for 30 years. I fished the professional trail full time. I came straight out of college, and that's what I've always done for a living, was a professional bass angler. Fished the Bassmaster Tour and the FLW Tours, and after 30 years, the last 5 or 6 years of that career kind of led me into the television, and the television got pretty demanding with the 2 shows on Outdoor Channel, and so I decided to retire 2 years ago, and I do miss it a little bit, I got to admit. And now my full-time job is I'm a owner of a production company, and we produce 2 shows for Outdoor Channel. We produce Stil's Reel in the Outdoors and Ultimate Match Fishing.
Tell me about Ultimate Match Fishing. I mean, for me as a bass fisherman, it was
unique, and that's what I think that's what everybody loves about it. The normal tournaments are great, and but they're very difficult to televise.
Right.
Ultimate Match Fishing, we're focusing on 2 anglers going head to head. Each week is a different episode, and there's a lot of ego on the line when there's only one guy to beat, and that's the guy on the other end of the boat, and that's what makes that show unique.
Let's hold it right there, and then when we come back, I want to ask you a lot more. I want to ask you about the Zen master himself, Rick Clunn. I want to know all about that episode. So stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
fishing since 1985. Tight Lines with Sammy Lee.
One of the most difficult things to determine in fishing is what size, color, and type of bait to use. Hello, this is Sammy Lee. Today's striped bass expert, Stu Tenney, has a tip that helps him catch more fish. But first, this message.
Already thinking about holiday shopping? Get your mates a mate. Fish mate, first mate, hunt mate, or chef mate. The smartphone apps for smart sportsmen and women. Fishmate is the ultimate app for anglers of all kinds. First Mate is perfect for every captain. Hunt Mate helps hunters bag more trophies. And Chef Mate is the new interactive cooking app preloaded with more than 900 recipes. These great gift ideas work on iPhones and Androids. So don't wait. Get your mate a mate. Start shopping at ConnectedLLCapps.com.
Striped bass expert Stu Tenney was telling me about a secret he learned a few years back that has helped him land more and bigger stripers.
Everybody that goes fishing puts on the bait that his buddy said he caught fish on 2 weeks ago. And, you know, that's a great way to start. You go to a lake and you want to fish the optimum time with the most information. So you put on a blue-purple wiggler with chartreuse eyeballs, and it's got to have one gold hook because that's what worked 2 weeks ago. But in a 2-week period of time, what's in that impoundment has changed. The half-inch shad is now an inch long. And the only way that you know that is to sneak up to the lake. Every single lake that I go to has got a parking lot where there's a ramp where you put your boat in. It's got a little boat dock, or it's got a bridge that goes over the lake. Every one of those things has got a light, and most of them are timed. They go on when it's dark. They go off when it starts getting light. If you arrange to start your fishing trip an hour before it gets light or 2 hours before it gets light, and you just park your vehicle and you ease up to that light and kind of look down in that light, it'll give you all the secrets that you need to know. Everything that you see in that light is what the predator fish that you're looking for is seeing on a day-to-day basis. It changes, and you have to be aware of those changes. If the lake is full of 3-inch baits and you're throwing a 7-inch bait, you might just well not be fishing. Right. You might luck up on a dumb fish that you just happen to, you know, one of those crazy fish that'll do anything. But by and large, the trips that are going to fill that logbook of yours full of success stories are going to be because you did a little thinking. And that is absolutely one of the greatest tips I've ever gotten, and I don't mind passing it on to other people.
I'll be back with more after this.
Is this the biggest fishing breakthrough in decades?
It's a revolutionary lure that is the most versatile plastic worm I've ever fished with.
Ever see a plastic worm with a tail that spins 360 degrees like a spinner? How does it do that? Be amazed at rototail.com. That's rototail.com. This new plastic worm effortlessly goes through any weeds and thick cover.
The unique action created by the spinning tail, along with the versatility that you can use this lure, it's amazing.
It puts to shame ordinary plastic worms that either do nothing or just wag back and forth. The tail calls fish from long distances and telegraphs what it's doing back to your rod.
The vibration that you feel on your rod tip is amazing. I never would have imagined in my wildest dreams that a soft plastic spinner, you'd be able to feel the thumping as it comes back to you.
Makes a great gift.
I believe that the Rototail is the next generation of plastic worm.
See it work at rototail.com. That's rototail.com.
Next time, Stu Tenney will talk about how to catch the most and largest stripers of the year. I'm Sammy Lee, and until next time, Tight Lines.
Tight Lines, brought to you by HuntMate, the ultimate hunting app for your iPhone. And by UFP, America's leading maker of brake systems for boat trailers.
Thanks a lot, Sammy Lee. And Sammy does his show with us every single day that we're on the air. He is also the master of ceremonies, the key man at the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. We have with us today Joe Thomas. You've probably seen Joe on one of his many shows on the Outdoor Channel. He's done Ultimate Match Fishing. He's done Stil's Reel in the Outdoors. He takes all over the world in that show. And we were just talking before the break about his episode with Rick Clunn on Ultimate Match Fishing. Joe, tell me about what it was fishing with Rick Clunn, because I've fished with Rick Clunn before. It's pretty intimidating, isn't it?
Yeah, Rick he's a very interesting guy, and you know, his credentials speak for themselves. But we actually, you know, going back to the very first season of Ultimate Match Fishing, Rick won our first Ultimate Match Fishing Championship, and the show was brand new. So a lot of people now that watch the show don't even realize that it was won by Rick Clunn back in the day. We handed him a check for $50,000, and he set everybody down. And he returned as champion for the next season. And we had probably one of the most talked about episodes ever when Rick Clunn fished against Jimmy Houston, and Jimmy Houston beat Rick Clunn on national television. It was a pretty interesting episode for sure.
How did Jimmy beat Rick Clunn?
It was really interesting because in ultimate match fishing, a person can take you to his area, and when the quarter switches, you have the prerogative to stay in that area. And Rick had found some topwater fish in an area of Kentucky Lake, and he and Jimmy agreed that that's where they were going to go. And Jimmy just got the bigger bites, and it was very interesting to see the dynamic of two of the arguably the most famous fishermen in the world going head to head. It was just amazing. I mean, and we actually in the first season, and again, people would have to look back and to think back about this. Rick Clunn beat Kevin Van Dam to advance to the finals of Ultimate Match Fishing.
Wow.
Talk about big names in the sport, you know?
That's right. I mean, obviously, you knew at that time who these people were, but did you think it was going to be such an important show, for lack of a better word?
You know, I didn't realize the importance that Ultimate Match Fishing would eventually have, and as far as and what the fans and the viewers would gravitate to it so strongly. And you know, the fact that I fished against these guys every week on the Bassmaster Tour allowed me to have access to the best anglers in the world. You know, we're friends and we're competitors, and so they stepped up, and they all, you know, initially when the show was new, came and fished with me to help get it started.
Yep.
After 3 years, the phone's ringing off the hook with guys begging, top pros begging to come and fish the show. They all want to win not just the $50,000, but the Ultimate Match Fishing belt, which has become a coveted title in the sport.
Tell me about Ultimate Match Fishing now. Where is
Ultimate Match Fishing? We have got probably the best season ever in the can, and it's coming in 2014 to Outdoor Channel. And I would love to be able to even foreshadow a little bit of what we've got coming. But I can tell you without a doubt, because I stood there, I was the commentator as always, and every episode just got better and better and better. And one of the episodes, I will tell the public just a little bit. We have Scott Martin and Roland Martin going head to head on Lake Okeechobee in one of our matches.
Wow!
And it is a slugfest. People won't believe it until they see it, but I can't tell you who won.
That's crazy. Cut to the chase. Who won the season?
I'd tell you, Alex, but I'd have to shoot you.
I don't want that.
It's really interesting how this season played out because we have such a diverse group, and the fact that we compete FLW anglers, 6 FLW anglers against 6 Bassmaster anglers makes it even more exciting, and because we get both tours involved. That's
a heck of a concept because there is no interaction between Bass and FLW except for your show, probably, right?
Well, that's it, and I think that both organizations are so strong. Their fishermen are so strong, and there's always a little ego involved there, and we put it all aside and we just put them head to head and see what happens.
Who's better, the FLW anglers or the Bass anglers?
Well, I would have to say that both of them have extremely strong anglers, but historically, over the last 7 years, we have watched FLW anglers end up on top in more matches than B.A.S.S anglers, and it's really close. The balance is really close, but looking at the statistics, FLW anglers have won more matches.
The B.A.S.S anglers all elite anglers?
Yes, we only use the top touring FLW pros and the top elite series anglers. That is the only criteria for the show is that we choose anglers from those 2 top-level circuits. And we get a lot of requests from anglers at various levels on different circuits to compete. And the criteria is they have to attain the elite status or fish the FLW Tour to be eligible.
Let's say I'm an elite angler. How do you pick me?
We've got basically a small group, and I'm on the board, and the Outdoor Channel makes the ultimate decision on who is on the show. But basically, our small board of people looks at criteria like, most recent Angler of the Year, most recent Bassmaster Classic, most Rookie of the Year, things that are anglers that are on top of their game right now, and we will offer slots to them typically first, and then we try and fill it out with anglers that have good personalities and that really want to compete, which is most of them anymore. They all seem to want to compete.
So personality makes a difference, right?
Huge. Ultimate match fishing is personality driven. The fish are not the stars of the show. The anglers are definitely the stars of the show.
On that note, we're going to get out and take a break, and then we'll be right back with the Joe Thomas himself. Stay with us, folks.
Is at the end of my load. America's outdoor talk program, Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer.
Break out the heavy line.
The Wade Bowen Report is brought to you by the original Alex Langer's Flying Lure. Hey, that's my lure! Hundreds of millions have been sold on TV worldwide for over 2 decades. It fishes itself and swims away from you on its own. Catches nearly every game fish that's ever swam. See it at flyinglure.com. That's flyinglure.com.
How do you break a young hunter into deer hunting? Should they start with a rifle or bow or muzzle loader? How can you make those first hunts enjoyable? How can you start a young sportsman out so they'll become deer hunters and maybe your hunting companion for life? I'm Wade Bourne, and this is Wired to Hunt Radio. Today, Michael Waddell of Bone Collector fame shares his thoughts about how to start a youngster in deer hunting. Stay with us. Wade will be right back. Hey, waterfowl hunters, if you need a shotgun for the new season, check out Mossberg's pumps and autoloaders. They come in black synthetic and camo finishes. They shoot 3 and 3.5 inch shells. They offer great dependability and value. Mossberg is America's oldest family-owned and operated firearms manufacturer. Check out Mossberg shotguns online at mossberg.com. Also, be watching for the new series of Mossberg Duck Commander shotguns later this fall. Mossberg, built rugged, proudly American. Cabela's is the world's foremost outfitter for hunting, fishing, camping, and outdoor gear. They offer more gear than anybody, best selection, prices, and quality, all backed by Cabela's legendary guarantee. Shopping with Cabela's has never been easier or more convenient. You can outfit all your needs through Cabela's catalogs, website, and their many stores. Check them out at Cabela's.com. Cabela's, the world's foremost outfitter. This is Wired to Hunt Radio. Michael Waddell hosts the popular Bone Collector TV hunting show, and he's a spokesman for several outdoor companies. Recently, Michael and I talked about how to start a youngster in deer hunting. He said it's best to start out together in an enclosed blind where they can move around. He said to take them to a spot where they're likely to see deer to hold their interest, and don't keep them out too long. And Michael recommends starting a young hunter out with a rifle, and one that's not too intimidating in noise and recoil.
Obviously, kids don't like anything to scare them, in my opinion. And I remember the first thing I ever shot was a .22 little rimfire, and man, I shot 100 rounds with that thing, and I loved it. And then gradually, my dad brought me up to bigger calibers, and even at a young age, it didn't take me long from graduating from a .22 to a .30-30, and then all of a sudden, within no time, I'm 12 years old, and I'm really enjoying and not scared of a .30-06. Some kids, I was a fairly big kid, and that .30-06 was easy for me to handle even at 12 years old. So I think it's up to each particular kid. But as a rule, a .308 doesn't have a ton of recoil. It's a very accurate round. And even a 7mm 08 is also a good round for kids, in my opinion.
So follow Michael Waddell's tips and don't push young deer hunters too far too fast. The idea is to keep them coming back so they'll mature into seasoned, committed sportsmen. And that's today's Wired to Hunt Radio. I'm Wade Bourne saying thanks for listening and get outside.
Thank you, Wade. And you get outside, Wade. Don't tell me to get outside. Listen, speaking of outside, we have somebody with us that you've probably seen on the Outdoor Channel by the name of Joe Thomas. Joe was a touring pro for most of his life, for like 30 years, and then he decided to quit that and go into the big time. He's now producing a couple of his own shows, both of which are legendary. We just talked to him about Ultimate Match Fishing, which has become probably the best known competitive show other than FLW and B.A.S.S. I have to give Joe and the Outdoor Channel credit for this. They put FLW versus Bass anglers on a TV show, and that's brilliant. I don't think you can see Bass versus FLW anywhere else. If you want to see it, you got to look at Joe Thomas's show. Or have we gone this year? I meant Reel in the Outdoors.
Stil's Reel in the Outdoors is now on its 7th season as well on the Outdoor Channel, and it's I call it more of a mainstream fishing show. But the one thing about that show that makes it different is we love to use reoccurring characters in the show, and a lot of times sometimes they're guides, sometimes they're just local people or friends of mine. But we go to places with people that know the area, and I get to learn from them. And a lot of times it's coast to coast. I mean, one week we're going to be in California fishing with Bobby Barrick on the California Delta, and the next week we're going to be on Lake Erie fishing with Jerry Gostinek, and for smallmouth bass. And we travel far and wide to produce that show, and we try and let people learn a little bit every week, and we have fun doing it.
There's a reality TV aspect to all of your shows.
Correct.
Is that something conscious, or is that just something you do unconsciously?
Well, here's the thing: is I would sit and watch television shows a lot of times, and I'm huge fans of the early days of Bill Dance and of Roland Martin and Jimmy Houston, and those guys have and still have such great personalities that the fish were a big part of the show, but them having fun made me want to go fishing.
Right.
And my producer and I decided when we started this show early on that we wanted to let people have fun with us on the water. And it's not a beat your chest, watch how many I can catch. It's, hey, we're having a great time. If I lose one or break one off, you're going to see my emotion. If I catch a giant one, I'm going to get excited, and hopefully people are going to want to go fishing with me at the end of the day, and that's kind of what I like about it.
Except for Bill Dance. Bill Dance is definitely beat your chest and look at the big bass that I've caught.
Well, Bill is, I think a lot of times to the corporate pressure of television, you have to modify things to that, and Bill, people don't even realize now because Bill's been on the air for so long. He was one of the early anglers of the year in the B.A.S.S. early days. I mean, Bill has tremendous fishing credentials, and I think that as you get older, being able to film a lot of shows in one location becomes appealing, and he's had to kind of model his show after that, but. We've spent a lot of road time for our show to a fault. We travel, again, coast to coast, and we even throw a couple episodes a year in that are not bass fishing, and people seem to like that too. We might do an episode with catching tarpon on bass tackle and things like that, and people seem to enjoy that as well.
Well, we're almost out of time, and, I kid Bill Dance. He's a friend, and he's been on the show many, many times. What's up for you this coming year? Is there anything new you're going to try?
Well, I'm excited to have, like I said, arguably what I think is the best season of ultimate match fishing ever coming this season on Outdoor Channel. We're actually heading right now to Georgia to film a couple more episodes of Stil's Reel in the Outdoors, because this is the time of the year where the big spotted bass bite on on Carter's Lake and on Lake Lanier. So, we're just going to keep it fresh. We're going to keep moving to new places, fishing public waters, and trying to teach people about fishing and having a little fun.
All right, give me one more nugget about this coming year's season of Ultimate Match Fishing.
The nugget that I'm going to give you is that you're going to see all of our catch records broken, and you're going to see a very I've got to be really careful how I say it. You're going to see a very, very unique ending, the most unique ending ever.
Okay, you're going to keep all my listeners guessing. Joe Thomas, thanks for being on. Everybody, go watch the Outdoor Channel, and if you don't have it, subscribe. Joe Thomas, thanks for being on.
Take care, Alex. Be good.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.
Alex Langer, Outdoors This Week.